Captain Daniel Harper stood on the bridge of the Celestial Voyager and watched the sun go down. The orange and gold colors painted the Caribbean water in beautiful shades. The massive cruise ship carried 3,000 passengers. None of them knew what was hidden beneath their feet. Lieutenant Amy Brooks walked toward him with a tablet in her hand. Her face looked worried. She had worked with the ship's security team for 2 years. Nothing in her training had prepared her for what they found that morning during a routine check. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy said quietly. She looked around to make sure no one else could hear them. Daniel followed her down to Deck 2. They walked past the busy casino and the restaurants filled with laughter. They went down 3 more levels into a restricted area. The area needed special clearance to enter. The corridor became narrower and the lights grew dimmer. They reached a sealed door with a sign that read "Authorized Personnel Only." Amy entered a 12-digit code. The door made a hissing sound and opened. Beyond the door was a chamber that should not exist. Daniel had never seen this room on any blueprint. The room stretched 50 meters in every direction. Strange equipment filled the space. The equipment looked nothing like normal ship machinery. Crystal-like panels covered the walls. They pulsed with a soft blue light. In the center stood a tall cylinder. It was about 3 meters high. The cylinder had symbols on it that seemed to move when Daniel looked at them. "What in God's name is this?" Daniel whispered. "That's not all, sir," Amy said. She walked to a console on the far wall and tapped a screen. A holographic display appeared in the air. It showed a star map, but Daniel did not recognize any of the stars from Earth's charts. "This has been here since the ship was built." Hidden in plain sight, Daniel felt his heart beat faster. The Celestial Voyager was only 5 years old. It was built in a shipyard in Miami. He had watched part of the construction himself. How could an entire section of the ship have been built without anyone knowing? "Have you told anyone else?" he asked. "Just you and Lieutenant Kevin Price from engineering. He's the one who found it." A young man in a maintenance uniform appeared at the doorway. Kevin looked pale and his hands shook slightly. "Captain, I ran some tests. This device has been taking power from the ship's reactors since day 1. Not much power, just enough to look like normal changes. But over 5 years, it's enough energy to power a small city." Daniel walked toward the tall cylinder in the center. He reached his hand toward its surface. The moment his fingers came close to the crystal material, the entire room filled with bright light. The symbols on the cylinder began to move faster. They formed patterns that felt familiar somehow. It was as if his brain was trying to remember something it had never learned. A voice echoed through the chamber. It spoke in English, but with an accent that belonged to no country on Earth. Recognition protocol started. Human captain identified. Authorization level Omega. Welcome, Guardian. The 3 humans froze. Amy reached for her gun without thinking. But she had no idea if a gun would work against alien technology. "Guardian?" Daniel said out loud. "What does that mean?" The holographic display changed. It showed Earth from space. Then the view pulled back to show the solar system. Then the galaxy. Then a huge network of lines connecting thousands of stars. "Humanity has been selected." The voice continued. "Your species shows the required traits. You are resilient, curious, and capable of both great compassion and great violence. The cruise ships are not just vessels for fun. They are watchtowers. They are observation posts positioned across your oceans. For 5 years, we have been studying you." The time for truth approaches. Daniel's mind raced. If this ship had this technology, how many others had it too? He thought of all the cruise lines and the hundreds of ships sailing Earth's oceans at any moment. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Why choose us?" "We are the network. We are a coalition of 47 species spanning 3 galaxies. And we did not choose you randomly, Captain Harper. Humanity is unique. In all our centuries of watching countless worlds, we have never seen a species quite like yours." Kevin stepped forward. His fear was being replaced by curiosity. "What makes us special?" The holographic display changed again. It showed images that made Daniel hold his breath. There were humans in spacesuits, but not modern ones. There were ancient cave paintings showing figures and helmets reaching toward the stars. There were old manuscripts showing machines that could not have existed back then. "You have always looked upward," the voice said. "Even when you had no way to reach the stars, you dreamed of them. Even when your world burned with war, you found moments of peace to wonder what lay beyond. Your species builds ships just for joy, just for the simple pleasure of travel and discovery. This is rare. Most species we meet view space travel as necessity, as conquest, as escape. But humans, you sail for the journey itself. Amy slowly lowered her weapon. So this is first contact? You've been watching us from cruise ships? First contact happened long ago in ways you have forgotten. This is reunion and awakening. The galaxy is not the peaceful place your scientists hope for. It is not the dark forest your pessimists fear. It is both and neither. It is complex, dangerous, wonderful, and it needs humanity now more than ever. Daniel felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He was just a cruise ship captain. He made sure passengers had a good time. He made sure the ship ran smoothly. He was not prepared to represent Earth in some cosmic drama, but as he looked at the star map floating before him, showing routes between worlds he had never imagined, he felt something else too. The same feeling he had as a boy standing on a beach. He remembered watching ships disappear over the horizon and wondering what lay beyond. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, Captain Harper, you must decide. In 72 hours, this ship and 17 others like it will receive a signal. You will be given a choice. Humanity can continue as it has, unaware of the greater universe. You will be safe in isolation but limited in potential. Or you can open the door, accept your place in the network, and face everything that comes with it. The wonders and the horrors, the allies and the enemies, the triumphs and the challenges. The light in the chamber began to fade. The cylinder returned to its quiet state. But know this, the voice said, growing fainter. The choice must be made freely. By humans, for humans. We will not force your hand. Whatever you decide, we will honor it. That is the network's first law. Sentient species determine their own destiny. Then there was silence. Daniel stood in the dim light with his mind spinning. Amy and Kevin looked to him for guidance. But he had none to give. Not yet, we need to find the other ships, he said finally. If there are 17 others with this technology, we need to know who commands them. And we need to figure out what we're going to tell 3,000 passengers when this all comes out. If it comes out, Kevin said, we could just seal this room again. Pretend we never found it. Daniel shook his head. No. If there's one thing I've learned in 30 years at sea, it's that secrets like this don't stay hidden. Not forever. And when the truth comes out, I'd rather be the one who chose to reveal it than the one who tried to cover it up. He took one last look at the chamber, and at the proof that humanity was not alone. Perhaps they had never been alone. Get me a secure line, he told Amy. I need to speak with the other captains. We've got 72 hours to make the most important decision in human history. As they left the chamber and sealed the door behind them, Daniel could hear the sounds of the ship above them. There was music from the piano bar and laughter from the pool deck. Life continued as normal, as it had for 5 years while this secret waited beneath. But normal was about to change forever. The real voyage was just beginning. The video conference took 6 hours to arrange. Daniel sat in his private quarters with the door locked. He had turned on a white noise generator to prevent anyone from listening. On his screen, 17 faces appeared. Each one showed the same mix of confusion, fear, and wonder he felt. Captain Linda Martinez of the Ocean Dream spoke first. Her ship was in the Mediterranean right now. Even through the secure connection, Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders. So it's real. I thought maybe Kevin had made a mistake, that our equipment had broken. But you're all seeing the same thing. Same setup, same message, same timeline, said Captain Gregory Walsh from the Pacific Serenity. He was the oldest among them, nearly 60 years old. His hair was white and his face was weathered from a lifetime at sea. I've been sailing for 40 years. Never thought I'd see anything like this. A younger captain named Peter Cole from the Star of Freedom laughed nervously. My engineering team thought they'd found a smuggling operation at first. We were about to call the Coast Guard when the thing started talking. Daniel leaned forward toward the camera. Has anyone told their corporate offices yet? Silence filled the screens. Then Linda spoke again. I reported a technical situation requiring investigation to headquarters. Told them I'd have a full report in 72 hours. That should buy us time. Same here, said Gregory, but we can't keep this secret much longer. If we're really going to make a decision that affects all of humanity, we can't do it alone. We're ship captains, not world leaders. Are we sure this is real? Asked Captain Helen Morris from the Caribbean Star. She was one of the few scientists turned sailors in the group. She had a degree in physics before she decided she preferred the ocean to the laboratory. I mean, really sure? This could be an elaborate trick. Maybe some kind of corporate experiment or military test. Amy, who had been sitting quietly in the corner of Daniel's cabin, spoke up. "Ma'am, I ran every test I could think of. The materials in that chamber don't match anything in our databases. The power signature is unlike any human technology. And the holographic system and the way it connects directly with neural patterns, that's not something we can fake." "She's right," added a voice from one of the other screens. It was Lieutenant Barry Hunt, an engineer from the Ocean Dream who had joined Linda's video call. "I've been trying to reverse engineer what I can access without triggering any systems. The math doesn't work with our physics. This uses principles we don't even have theories for yet." Daniel drummed his fingers on his desk. "So we accept it's real. Alien technology has been hidden in our ships for 5 years. The question is, what do we do about it?" "We tell the world," Peter said immediately. "This is too big to keep secret. And cause a global panic?" Gregory countered. "People are terrified of what they don't understand. You tell them aliens have been watching them from cruise ships and you'll have riots. Mass hysteria." "He's right," Helen said. "But we can't just make this decision ourselves. We need guidance. Government, scientists, maybe the United Nations. In 72 hours? Linda shook her head. "Even if we could get through to the right people in time, you know what will happen. This becomes political. Countries will fight over control. The military will want to weaponize whatever's in these chambers. We'll lose any chance of making a clean, honest choice." Daniel had been thinking about this since leaving the chamber. What if we don't tell the governments first? What if we tell everyone at once? The screens fell silent. "Explain," Gregory said slowly. "We have 3,000 passengers per ship. That's over 50,000 people across all 18 vessels. 50,000 civilians from dozens of countries. All different backgrounds, all different perspectives." Daniel stood up and began pacing in the small cabin. "What if we present the situation to them? Show them what we've found. Explain the choice and let them vote. Then we take that vote to the world as proof of what regular people want." "That's crazy," Helen said, but her voice suggested she was thinking about it rather than rejecting it. "Is it?" Daniel challenged. "The network said the choice has to be made by humans for humans." "Well, who better to represent humanity than a random sample of 50,000 people who happen to be on vacation?" Peter leaned back in his chair. "It would be the largest spontaneous vote in history, and it would be hard for governments to ignore. These are their citizens making an informed choice, right? But what if they choose wrong?" asked a captain Daniel didn't know well, Claire Bennett from the Horizon Explorer. "What if fear wins and we close ourselves off from the galaxy? Or what if curiosity wins and we rush into something we're not ready for?" "Then that's humanity's choice to make," Daniel said quietly. "The network said we determine our own destiny. Maybe that means accepting that we might make mistakes." Amy stood up. "Captain, I need to say something. I've been military, law enforcement, and security for my entire adult life. Every instinct I have says to follow the chain of command. Report this up the line and let the experts handle it. But I keep thinking about what that voice said, about how we build ships for joy, about how we sail for the journey itself." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Maybe the reason we're the ones who found this isn't random. Maybe it's because we're the people who understand that sometimes the journey matters more than the destination." Gregory nodded slowly. "The girl makes a good point. We're not politicians or generals. We're sailors. We know how to read the wind and make calls when we're far from shore. Maybe that's exactly the perspective needed here." Over the next hour, they worked out a plan. In 48 hours, each captain would call a ship-wide assembly. They would present the evidence and show the recordings from the chambers. They would explain the choice. The passengers would have 12 hours to discuss, debate, and decide. Then they would vote. "What about the crew?" Linda asked. "We can't keep them in the dark. We tell them first," Daniel decided. 6 hours before we tell the passengers. They deserve to know before everyone else, and we need them on board for this to work. "One more thing," Helen said. "We need a backup plan. What if the network isn't good? What if this is a trap?" "Then we already lost," Gregory said bluntly. "They've been watching us for 5 years. If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. At this point, we're choosing whether to engage knowingly or remain ignorant. I'd rather face danger with my eyes open." The conference call ended near midnight. Daniel sat in the darkness of his cabin, listening to the distant sounds of his ship. Somewhere above, passengers were dancing, drinking, celebrating vacations and anniversaries and retirements. They had no idea that their cruise ship captain was about to ask them to vote on humanity's future. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find Kevin standing there looking exhausted. "Sir, I've been thinking, if we're really going to do this and show people the chamber, we should make it easy to see. I can set up a video feed, maybe create a viewing station in the theater?" Daniel nodded. "Good thinking. But make sure you have safety rules. If that thing turns on again, I don't want anyone getting hurt. Already working on it." Kevin hesitated. "Captain, do you really think this is the right call?" Putting it to a vote. "I think it's the only call that honors what the network said about self-determination. And honestly, Kevin, I don't trust myself to make this choice alone. It's too big. Too important." The young engineer smiled slightly. "My grandmother always said that the moment you realize a decision is too important for one person is the moment you're wise enough to lead. Maybe the network knew what it was doing when it picked cruise ships, picked people who are used to serving others." After Kevin left, Daniel returned to the bridge. The night watch was on duty, keeping track of the ship's course through calm seas. Everything looked normal and routine, just another night on a luxury cruise. But beneath the decks, in a hidden chamber filled with alien light, the future was waiting. Daniel picked up the ship's intercom. In 48 hours, he would use it to change everything. But for now, for these last quiet hours, he let his passengers dream. The stars above seemed brighter than usual, he noticed, as if the galaxy itself was watching and waiting to see what humanity would choose. 24 hours after the vote, at exactly midnight, every chamber on all 18 ships turned on at the same time. Daniel stood in the hidden room aboard the Celestial Voyager. He was surrounded by a small group that included Amy, Kevin, Sophie Turner, and representatives from different passenger groups. They had agreed that if something was going to happen, people should see it. The crystal cylinder blazed with light, but this time it was different. The light was warmer and more welcoming. The holographic display expanded to fill the entire chamber. Suddenly they weren't looking at a star map anymore. They were looking at people. Not humans, but people nonetheless. The hologram showed representatives of what Daniel guessed were the network species. Some looked humanoid and others decidedly did not. One resembled a large insect made of living crystal. Another appeared to be a cloud of glowing particles that somehow held a shape. A third looked almost human except for the silver skin and eyes that held entire galaxies. The voice that had spoken before returned, but now it came from the being with galaxy eyes. "Humanity, you have chosen to walk among the stars. We are honored to welcome you." Sophie stepped forward, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "We have questions." "A lot of them," the being smiled. The expression somehow translated across species. "As you should. We will answer what we can. But first, you must understand what your choice means." The hologram shifted, showing Earth from space. "Your world will not change overnight. We do not arrive with ships and demands. That is not our way. Instead, what changes is knowledge. These chambers, hidden in your cruise ships, will become your windows to the galaxy. Through them, you can learn, communicate, and eventually travel." "Why cruise ships?" Kevin asked. "I mean, I get the symbolism, but practically speaking, why not major cities or science buildings?" The insect being spoke, its voice like musical chimes. "Because cruise ships move. They are spaces between destinations, neutral ground. They carry a cross-section of your people. And yes, because of the symbolism, you humans understand metaphor in a way that many species do not. The particle cloud being flowed forward. But also because we needed to test your response to discovery. We placed these chambers where curious, dedicated people would eventually find them. Ship engineers, security personnel, maintenance crews, people who notice when something is wrong, who investigate rather than assume. People like Kevin Price, who found a strange pattern in power use and didn't stop until he understood it. Kevin blushed at being mentioned by name. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. "You said we can learn and eventually travel. What does that mean in real terms?" The galaxy-eyed being gestured and the hologram changed again. "Now you send representatives. Not governments, not corporations, not military forces. People. The ones who voted yes, who want to learn. They will come to these chambers, and through them we will teach. Language, science, culture, history, everything you need to understand the galaxy you're joining." "And the people who voted no?" asked Alan Porter, the historian who had been skeptical from the beginning but had come to see this moment. "What about them?" "They continue as they were," the insect being said. "No one will be forced to engage with us. The choice to participate is individual, as it should be. Some of your people will embrace the network immediately. Others will take generations to trust us. This is natural and expected. Are we in danger? Amy asked, her security training taking over. You said the galaxy is complex and dangerous. What exactly are we walking into? The three beings exchanged a look that suggested silent communication. Then the galaxy-eyed one spoke seriously. Yes, you are in danger. The galaxy is home to wonders beyond your imagination, but also to threats. There are species who view young civilizations as things to be used. There are conflicts older than your recorded history. There are mysteries that have driven entire civilizations to madness. But, the particle cloud being continued, you are also protected. The network is strong. We are 47 species working together, defending each other, learning from each other. And humanity brings something we need. Which is? Sophie asked. Hope, the insect being said simply. You are young, optimistic, creative. You look at an impossible problem and see a challenge to overcome. You face darkness with humor and art and stubborn determination. Many of us have forgotten how to do that. We've become old, careful, set in our ways. You remind us why we formed the network in the first place. The hologram shifted one more time, showing humans and aliens working together on projects Daniel couldn't begin to understand. Cities in space, gardens on airless moons, art that seemed to break the laws of physics. This is your future, the galaxy-eyed being said, if you want it. But understand, there is no going back. Once you step through this door, humanity will never be the same. Your children will grow up knowing they are not alone. Your scientists will have to rewrite their books. Your philosophers will wrestle with new questions of meaning and purpose. Everything changes. Daniel felt the weight of what they had done settling over him. They had voted yes, but had they truly understood what they were voting for? Could anyone have understood? As if reading his thoughts, the galaxy-eyed being looked directly at him. Captain Harper, you doubt. This is good. Doubt is the beginning of wisdom. But know this. We did not choose humanity randomly. We have watched millions of species reach this point. Some were ready, some were not. You are ready not because you are fearless, but because you are hopeful despite your fear. That is the quality that will carry you through what comes next. When do we start? Sophie asked, and Daniel heard the excitement in her voice, the same wonder he felt beneath his doubt. Now, all three beings said together, the chamber transformed. What had been a simple room became something more. Doorways appeared in the walls. Each one showed a different location. Through one, Daniel could see a vast library that seemed to stretch forever. Through another, a marketplace where creatures of every imaginable shape traded goods and ideas. Through a third, a garden of plants that grew in colors that didn't exist on Earth. These are the entry points, the galaxy-eyed being explained. Any human may use them now. Step through, learn, explore. We ask only that you respect the communities you visit and understand that you are ambassadors for your entire species. Over the next few hours, the ship erupted in celebration and chaos. Passengers lined up to visit the chamber, to see the doorways, to take those first careful steps into the galaxy beyond. Some went through immediately, laughing with the joy of discovery. Others stood at the threshold, too afraid to step across but too curious to leave. Daniel watched as Sophie Turner, the young woman who had lost her mother but kept her curiosity, stepped through the doorway to the library. She looked back once, grinned, and disappeared into knowledge beyond imagining. He watched as Kevin Price and his engineering team rushed through the doorway that led to some kind of technical school, eager to understand the science behind what they'd discovered. He watched as families crossed together, as strangers became companions for this ultimate journey, as humanity took its first collective steps into a larger universe. But he also saw those who didn't go through. Alan Porter, the skeptical historian, stood at the doorway and shook his head. Not yet, Daniel heard him say. I need to understand what this means for Earth first. Someone needs to stay behind and think about the implications. It was a valid choice, Daniel thought. Not everyone needed to rush forward. As dawn broke over the Caribbean, Daniel stood on the bridge of the Celestial Voyager. The ship would reach port in 2 days, and he had no idea what would happen then. Would governments try to take control? Would there be panic or celebration or both? But looking out at the ocean, at the stars fading with the sunrise, he felt something he hadn't expected. Peace. They had made the right choice. Not a perfect choice, maybe not even a safe choice, but the right one. Humanity deserved to know it wasn't alone. Humanity deserved the chance to reach for something greater than itself. Amy joined him on the bridge, looking exhausted but happy. Captain, The other ships are reporting similar reactions. People are scared, excited, overwhelmed, but they're engaged. They're learning. That's all we can ask for, Daniel said. Below decks, the chamber pulsed with light as more passengers stepped through the doorways. The cruise ship, built for vacation trips and pleasure voyages, had become something else entirely. A threshold. A beginning. A bridge between worlds. 3 months later, Daniel Harper sat in a conference room in Geneva, facing representatives from every nation on Earth. The hidden chambers had been revealed to the world, and the debate over how to handle humanity's entry into the network consumed everyone. But sitting next to him were 50,000 ordinary people, the passengers and crew from 18 cruise ships who had made the first choice. They were waiters and retirees, engineers and teachers, parents and students. They were humanity in all its messy, beautiful diversity. And when the governments tried to take control, to create rules and restrictions, it was Sophie Turner who stood up and spoke. With respect, she said, her voice carrying through the chamber, "You're late to this conversation. We already voted. Humanity already chose. What you're debating now is not whether we join the network, but how we engage with it." Morning came and the Celestial Voyager had transformed into a floating discussion hall. Every open space on the ship had become a place for debate. The cruise director, Julie, had set up organized debate sessions in the main theater, but most passengers preferred smaller, informal gatherings. Daniel walked through the ship listening. In the library, a group of engineers and scientists clustered around laptops, trying to analyze the technical details Kevin had shared. They filled whiteboards with math problems, arguing about the physics that could allow faster-than-light travel. On the sports deck, a philosophy professor named Rebecca Norton spoke to about 30 listeners. "The question isn't whether we can trust the network," she was saying. "The question is whether we trust ourselves. Every great civilization has faced this moment when they had to choose between safety and growth. The ones that chose safety are forgotten. The ones that chose growth changed the world." But in the coffee shop, a historian named Alan Porter gave a different view. Every time a more advanced civilization contacts a less advanced one, the less advanced one suffers. Look at colonization and cultural destruction. What makes us think this would be different? A woman in her 60s traveling with her grandchildren responded to him. "Because we're not being colonized, Alan. We're being invited, and we have the power to say no." Daniel found Sophie Turner, the young woman who had spoken so well the night before, sitting alone on her balcony. He knocked on the open door. "Mind if I join you?" She looked surprised but pointed to the empty chair. "Captain, I thought you'd be too busy to chat with random passengers. I'm trying to get a sense of how people are feeling. You seemed pretty sure last night." Sophie laughed softly. "I was running on adrenaline and the remains of my college debate team confidence. This morning, I'm terrified." She stared out at the ocean. "My mom died 2 years ago. Cancer. I took this cruise because she always wanted to but never got the chance. And now I'm sitting here about to vote on whether humanity should join an alien civilization. All I can think is how much I wish I could ask her what to do. What do you think she would say? She'd probably tell me to follow my gut. She was a teacher and loved learning new things. She used to say that the worst thing a person could do was stop being curious." Sophie wiped her eyes. "So I guess I know how I'm voting. But I'm still scared." "Being scared doesn't mean you're making the wrong choice," Daniel said. "It just means you understand how important it is." Throughout the morning, the debates continued. A family from Texas argued over breakfast. The parents wanted to vote no, and their teenage daughter insisted yes. A group of retirees compared this to every major decision in their lives, from choosing careers to deciding to have children. Everything important was scary, they decided. That's how you knew it mattered. At 10 in the morning, Daniel received a call on the bridge. It was Admiral Raymond Burke of the United States Navy. His face looked stern on the video screen. "Captain Harper, I'm ordering you to secure that chamber and stop any further sharing of information. This is a matter of national security." Daniel had been expecting this. "With respect, Admiral, I don't take orders from you. I'm a civilian captain of a civilian vessel in international waters. Don't play games with me, Captain. This situation affects global security. We need to handle this through proper channels." "Proper channels?" Daniel felt his temper rise. "Admiral, we don't have proper channels for first contact with an alien civilization. And even if we did, what gives any government the right to make this choice for all of humanity? Experience, knowledge, resources. We have experts who can analyze this situation far better than a bunch of tourists on vacation. Those tourists are your citizens, Admiral. They're the people you claim to protect. Maybe they deserve a voice. The Admiral's expression hardened. I'm warning you, Captain. If you go through with this vote, there will be consequences. Then there will be consequences. But the vote is happening. After ending the call, Daniel found his hands shaking. Amy, who had witnessed the exchange, put a hand on his shoulder. That took courage, sir. Or stupidity. Daniel looked out at the ocean. I just defied a military admiral. Even if we're in international waters, that's going to have consequences. Worth it, though, Kevin said, entering the bridge with his tablet. Sir, you should see this. The other ships are getting similar calls. Governments are threatening, demanding, trying to take control. But the captains are standing firm. We're in this together. At 11 o'clock, Daniel made another ship-wide announcement. In 1 hour, you'll be asked to vote on the most important question humanity has ever faced. I want to share with you what I've learned this morning walking through this ship and listening to you talk. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I've heard brilliant arguments on both sides. I've heard people speak of hope and caution, of curiosity and wisdom. I've seen families disagree and friends debate and strangers find common ground. And you know what I realized? This is humanity at its best. Not agreeing but discussing. Not fighting, but thinking. The network told us we're unique because we sail for the journey itself. I think they're right, but not in the way they meant. We're unique because we know that the destination matters less than how we get there. We're unique because we can argue with passion and still sit down to dinner together. We're unique because we're scared of the unknown, but we walk toward it anyway. Whatever you vote in an hour, vote with your heart and your mind. Vote for the world you want to see. Vote for the humanity you believe in. And know that whatever the outcome, we made this choice together as equals, as partners in this strange journey we call life. The hour before the vote passed in relative quiet. People went to their cabins and called loved ones back home. They sat in meditation or prayer. The energy of debate had given way to deep thought. At noon exactly, the voting system turned on. Each passenger and crew member received a secure link on their shipboard device. The question appeared on screens throughout the vessel. Should humanity accept the network's invitation to join the galactic community? Yes or no? It took 3 hours for all the votes to be counted. Daniel watched the numbers from the bridge, his stomach in knots. The numbers climbed, swinging back and forth. For a while, the no votes led. Then the yes votes pulled ahead. It was closer than he had expected. At 3 in the afternoon, the final results came in for the Celestial Voyager. 62% yes, 38% no. Reports from the other ships came in over the next hour. The numbers varied, but every ship showed the same result. A majority, ranging from 58 to 67%, had voted yes. Humanity, as represented by 50,000 people on 18 cruise ships, had chosen to reach for the stars. Daniel sat down heavily in his captain's chair. They had done it. For better or worse, they had made the choice. The bridge fell quiet. Amy stood by the windows looking out at the calm sea. Kevin checked and rechecked the numbers, making sure they were accurate. The weight of what they had done settled over all of them. What happens now? Amy asked softly. Daniel stood and walked to the window beside her. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Now we wait. 24 hours, the network said. Then we'll know if we made the right choice. And if we didn't, then we deal with it. Together. Throughout the ship, passengers were reacting to the results. Some celebrated, hugging strangers and popping champagne. Others sat quietly, processing what had just happened. A few cried, whether from joy or fear, it was hard to tell. Sophie Turner stood on her balcony watching the sunset. She thought about her mother and hoped she had voted the way she would have wanted. In her heart, she felt at peace with the decision. Victor Hayes, the older man who had questioned why they should decide, sat in the library with his wife. Well, we did it, he said. For better or worse, we made history. We made a choice, his wife corrected. History will decide if it was right. In the hidden chamber far below, the crystal cylinder began to pulse with a new rhythm. The countdown had reached its end. Now came the moment of truth. Daniel returned to the bridge and picked up the ship's intercom one more time. Attention, passengers and crew of the Celestial Voyager. The votes have been counted and verified. Humanity has chosen to accept the network's invitation. In 24 hours, we will learn what that choice truly means. Until then, I encourage you to rest, to talk with loved ones, and to prepare yourselves for whatever comes next. We have taken the first step into a larger universe. Let us take it together, with courage and hope. As night fell over the Caribbean, the ship settled into an uneasy calm. People ate dinner, but conversation was subdued. The usual entertainment continued, but fewer people attended. Most passengers stayed on the outdoor decks, looking up at the stars and wondering what tomorrow would bring. Daniel remained on the bridge through the night, unable to sleep. He had made the biggest decision of his life, and possibly the biggest decision in human history. Now all he could do was wait and hope they had chosen wisely. The stars shone brightly above, silent witnesses to humanity's choice. And somewhere out there among those distant lights, the network was preparing to welcome Earth's children home. The crew meeting happened in the ship's largest conference room at 6 in the morning. Daniel had asked all workers who were not doing critical jobs to attend. Nearly 400 men and women crowded into a space designed for half that number. They came confused and concerned. Rumors had been spreading once word got out that all 18 ships were holding similar meetings. Daniel stood at the front with Amy and Kevin beside him. Behind them, a large screen showed the sealed door to the hidden chamber. "Thank you all for coming," Daniel began. "What I'm about to show you and tell you will sound impossible. Some of you will think it's a joke or a drill. I promise you it's neither." He nodded to Kevin, who played the footage they had recorded in the chamber. The crew watched in stunned silence as the cylinder turned on. They saw the holographic displays appear and heard the voice of the network speak. When the recording ended, the room exploded with noise. "This is a joke, right?" called out Marcus Webb, one of the senior chefs. "Some kind of team-building exercise?" "I wish it were," Daniel replied. "But it's real." "As real as this ship beneath your feet?" Julie Sanders, the cruise director, stood up. She was responsible for keeping 3,000 passengers entertained every day. Her organizational skills were legendary. "Okay, let's say I believe you. And honestly, that footage is pretty convincing. What does this mean for us? For our jobs? For the passengers? It means in 42 hours we're going to tell everyone. We're going to show them what we found and ask them to vote on whether humanity should join this network or stay alone." The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was different. Thoughtful rather than shocked, Lisa Chen, the ship's doctor, raised her hand. "Captain, I need to ask the obvious question. What are the medical risks? If we vote to join, are we talking about contact with alien species? What about diseases? Can our bodies handle it?" "Those are excellent questions, and I don't have all the answers," Daniel admitted. "But the network has been watching us for years. They must have rules for this kind of thing." "Must have," challenged Frank Rivera, the chief of security. "Sir, with all respect, we're betting the future of humanity on must have?" Amy stepped forward. "Frank, I've been in your position, I get it. Every instinct says this is dangerous and that we should be careful. But think about it. If the network wanted to harm us, they wouldn't have hidden these chambers and waited for us to find them. They wouldn't have given us a choice. Unless the choice itself is the test," someone called out from the back. Daniel nodded. "Exactly. And maybe that's the point. Maybe they want to see if we're wise enough to make this decision carefully and collectively, without rushing." Over the next 2 hours, Daniel and his senior staff answered every question they could. Some crew members were excited, seeing this as the opportunity of a lifetime. Others were terrified, worried about their families back on Earth. A few were still skeptical and convinced this was some elaborate trick. But by the end of the meeting, most of them understood what Daniel was proposing and why. "I need you all to do your jobs today as normally as possible," Daniel said as the meeting ended. "Tonight we tell the passengers. Tomorrow they vote. Whatever happens after that, we face together." As the crew left, Julie stayed behind. "Captain, I'm going to need to completely reorganize today's activities. If we're doing a ship-wide assembly tonight, that's going to need the main theater, the overflow rooms, every screen on the ship." "I know I'm asking a lot." "Are you kidding?" Julie grinned. "I once planned a wedding for a couple who decided to get married mid-cruise with 4 hours' notice. I organized a surprise party for 300 people in a storage room. This is just another day in paradise." Her smile faded slightly, though I admit the stakes are a bit higher. That evening, as the sun set over the Caribbean, the announcement went out. All passengers were asked to gather in the main theater and extra viewing areas for an important ship-wide message. No explanation was given, which led to wild guessing. Daniel watched from backstage as the theater filled. He could hear the confused voices, the mix of worry and curiosity. Some passengers looked annoyed at having their evening plans changed. Others seemed excited, thinking this might be some kind of special entertainment. At exactly 8 o'clock, the lights dimmed. Daniel walked onto the stage. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Captain Daniel Harper, and I've been commanding the Celestial Voyager for 3 years. Tonight, I'm going to tell you something that will sound like science fiction. I ask only that you watch and listen before you judge." He signaled Kevin, and the massive screens throughout the ship came to life. For the next 30 minutes, the passengers watched the same footage the crew had seen. They saw the hidden chamber and heard the network's message. They learned about the choice facing humanity. The reaction was everything Daniel had expected and more. Some passengers gasped. Others laughed nervously. A few shouted that it was fake. But most simply watched in stunned silence. When the footage ended, Daniel returned to the stage. "I know you have questions. I know you're scared, confused, maybe excited. For the next hour, my senior staff and I will answer whatever we can. Then we're going to ask you to do something that has never been done before." He explained the plan. The vote would happen tomorrow at noon. Every passenger and crew member would have one vote. The question was simple. Should humanity accept the network's invitation to join the galactic community? The question and answer session was chaotic. A retired professor named George Martin demanded proof that the footage wasn't created by computers. Daniel invited him and a group of doubters to visit the chamber personally. A young mother named Patricia Gomez asked tearfully what this would mean for her children. Daniel answered honestly that he didn't know, but staying ignorant seemed more dangerous than moving forward with knowledge. One passenger, an older man named Victor Hayes, stood up, and his question made the room go quiet. "Captain, why us? Why should a bunch of people on vacation get to make this decision for the whole world?" Daniel had been waiting for this question. "Because, Mr. Hayes, you are the world. Look around this ship. We have passengers from 43 countries. We have rich and poor, young and old, scientists and artists, believers and doubters. You're not politicians or generals or people with agendas. You're just humans living your lives trying to be happy. And maybe that's exactly who should make this choice." A young woman named Sophie Turner stood up. She looked about 25 years old and was traveling alone. She spoke with quiet strength. "I've been listening to everyone's questions and fears, but has anyone else noticed what the network said? That we're unique because we build ships for joy? Because we sail for the journey itself?" She pointed around the theater. "We're on a cruise ship right now. We paid money to go in a giant circle and end up back where we started, just for the experience of the journey. Maybe we're exactly the right people to decide if humanity should take a journey into the unknown." The theater filled with applause. As the meeting broke up after midnight, Daniel noticed passengers weren't leaving. They gathered in small groups, talking, discussing, arguing. The bars filled with people not drinking to forget, but drinking while they talked about the future. The outdoor decks saw groups pointing at the stars and wondering which might have the civilizations of the network. Daniel found Amy on the bridge, watching the activity on the security cameras. "It's like the whole ship is buzzing," she said. "I've never seen anything like it." "Neither have I." Daniel watched a screen showing the main pool area, where at least 200 people had gathered for an impromptu debate. "You know what's strange? I thought there would be more panic, more fear. Maybe people are more ready than we think," Amy suggested. "We grew up with science fiction, with the idea that we're not alone. Maybe this isn't as shocking as we expected." Kevin rushed onto the bridge with his tablet in hand. "Captain, you need to see this. The other ships are reporting the same thing. Passengers are engaged, talking, thinking. And sir, it's spreading. Social media is exploding. Passengers are posting about this despite our requests to keep it quiet. It's going viral." Daniel's heart sank.
"How bad?"
"Actually, not bad at all. The general opinion online seems to be that this is real and people want more information. Governments are demanding explanations, but they can't shut it down. Not with 50,000 witnesses." Amy pulled up a news feed. Already major networks were running stories. Scientists were being interviewed. Religious leaders were sharing their thoughts. The world, it seemed, was having the same conversation as the passengers on the Celestial Voyager. "We've opened Pandora's box," Daniel said quietly. "Maybe," Kevin replied. "Or maybe we've just turned on the lights." Below decks, in the hidden chamber, the crystal cylinder pulsed softly, as if sensing that something important was happening. The countdown to the decision continued, but already humanity had changed. The secret was out and there was no going back.